Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back to talk about week 1 of The Mole on Netflix. The Mole 2024. We are back here to talk about everything that we saw here in the first 5 episodes. A spoiler alert here, with 2 people who have just as much money in the pot as the contestants on The Mole. I'm Rob Cesternino here with Jessica Liese. Jess, how are you?
Speak for yourself, Rob. You know, I'm not about to let people take an exemption for $45,000.
Just we have $0 in the pot and they have $0 in the pot.
At what point is Netflix just going to start billing these people?
Yeah, they're going to be in the negative.
Yeah, they're going to be like, they don't get to play Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, they're not going to get to play any. They should have to have $1 in the pot or the mole wins at all times. That would be a good way to do it.
Well, this actually brings up some kind of Mole 101 that we did get a question about on social media.
Yes.
Is there a win condition for the mole? And this was the question.
Yeah, I feel like the win condition for the mole is if they don't get caught, right? If nobody guesses who the mole is.
Yeah, but they don't actually win anything ever.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's more like, in fact, it is possible for somebody to win this show and never know who the mole is and to be legit surprised at the end.
Yeah.
It is possible because we never outright come to somebody's face at the final round and say, who is the mole?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, especially, like, I wouldn't put it past this bunch for them to get to the very end and somebody not know. But it's basically like whoever is the last person standing who's not the mole. And the final 2 people that are not the mole take the quiz, and whoever gets the highest gets the prize.
Yep. That certainly could happen. Might happen here with this crew here this season. It's been an interesting run here for the latest edition of The Mole. Of course, we are back to talk about this week's episode. We kicked off the season on Friday talking about the premiere. Brooklyn Zed joined us then, and they are going to join us in just a little bit, running a little behind, but we had to jump on here because we've got Big Brother Family Feud coming up in just a little bit, a little after 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got Big Brother Family Feud that's coming up live, so we got to get the mole coverage in, but we are live. We're taking your questions. If you got any questions in the chat, we can go ahead and bring them up. We love to hear from you all in the chat. Jess, so much interesting stuff going on. I talked in the last episode that about potentially a mole-mance happening. I said between Andy and Deanna, but little did we know that we have the first ever mole PDA going on.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody make out on the mole before.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty unprecedented. We are out in uncharted waters here.
Holy moly.
But honestly, I think this was inevitable when you consider the ethos of Netflix reality casting.
Yes.
Because there's no way around it. And it's just like, I'm going to have to be resigned to it, or I'm going to have to not podcast about the mole or any Netflix show. Like, don't bring me back to talk about Netflix shows if I can't accept that one of the reasons people go on Netflix reality is so that they can try out for Perfect Match.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have already breaking news are happening now. Just have you heard about this?
Breaking news are happening now.
It's being reported that Tony from the Mole departed from the game, has already been cast on another Netflix show.
Is it Perfect Match?
I believe so. Sam, can you confirm that? See if you could bring up the headline. I believe that was reported that Tony is already going to be on another show. Why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, the second I saw that guy, I'm like, he doesn't care about the mole.
Mm-hmm.
He's in it for as many Netflix reality gravy trains as he can hitch a ride on. This is what this guy, like, this is a kid that was like, and we are now old enough that this could have happened in elementary school when they go on career days. They're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know how kids now say they want to be YouTubers?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that, like, back in his childhood, young Tony was asked, and young Tony said, I want to be a reality star when I grow up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the great reality TV news account, they've already got the news out there that Tony Castellanos from The Mole Season 2 will be on Netflix's new crossover reality series, Battle Camp.
Battle Camp?
Tony.
Okay, well, I got to give him credit because I was sure it was going to be
New
Perfect
show.
Match.
New
Yeah,
show.
brand new
Battle
show.
Camp.
Battle Camp. What even is that? Do we think? Is it just like people
I
playing
think they're
paintball?
saying it's like the challenge. It's gonna be a lot going on there over
All
on
right, that
Battle
tracks.
Camp.
That tracks.
Okay. And apparently the whole cast of Battle Camp has been dropped, including some friends from the circle, people from Too Hot to Handle. Although it looks like he goes by Antonio on Battle Camp. So
Well, that was how he introduced himself when he first showed up in the cornfield.
a little bit of a rebrand here. So,
Yeah.
there you
I
go.
don't know, I think he starts out trying to be Antonio, and people just call him Tony because he looks like a Tony.
I think this may have already filmed that Trey from Squid Game. I know he had just filmed something that he is on this. Also, Avery from The Mole Season 1 is also on this one. So good job by Tony. I was so taken aback I believe it's in episode 3 when and we'll go through all the episodes, but in episode 3, when we are watching quiz number 2, okay, on the beach, Andy ends up being eliminated. This is right after they do the thing where the money is dropping and Tony and Hannah are the last 2 people sitting there. Andy gets eliminated and then Tony and Hannah kiss. I was like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, this was something. And also, I just have to pour one out because Josh Wigler is never going to get to talk about Andy. That's like I think
You can talk about him. Yeah,
Andy
ultimately, he didn't really. Really, Tony and Hannah did more to tie the knots than Andy.
He's no Charlie season 1 or Bill season 2.
No,
like, these are the Josh Wigler guys.
Yeah, so
he didn't really have a distinctive voice to hang an impression on either.
Josh will join us next week to talk about the second batch of Mole episodes. But this was just so wild. The Tony and Hannah just like instant. Like it wasn't even like, ooh, they're flirting. They went right to they're kissing in front of everybody. I've not since I was with Rob and Amber have I seen this.
Well, I don't
have
know
the same reaction.
Did you literally have the same reaction, Rob?
That Tony and Hannah are going to do it.
I don't know if they got the chance, though. Like these,
Listen,
the Mole.
Tony, he doesn't need a lot of time to get, okay?
I guess so. I mean, they don't even do that on Perfect Match, honestly. Like,
yeah,
these people,
I wouldn't know.
On the show when they're supposed to be vibing like that, they don't do that on that show.
Yeah, you know what? Really, was Tony like a leftover from Too Hot to Handle? Was that the issue? That how they found him?
That's also possible.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a better idea, Rob. Okay.
Yes.
I think Netflix is going about this backward. I think instead of the Mole being a feeder show for Perfect Match or The Circle or Battle Camp, what if we did it the other way around? What if we brought people from the Netflix reality extended universe into the Mole? And we had like Celebrity Mole.
Yes.
And let's just put that separately and make that its own thing. And then have regular Mole, like regular season Mole and Celebrity Mole. Or Celebrity Mole.
Look, more Mole is fine by me. I've this was very fun this first week, but Jess, I guess my question is, are these players very bad at the Mole, considering that they have no money, or has the gameplay basically evolved to what this is now, where actually the Mole does nothing during the challenges? The Mole does not even have to sabotage any challenge. The teams just win whatever money, and then they all screw each other over to buy advantages in the little mini games that happen in between the tasks.
Well, Rob, this is how I always said I would play it if I was the Mole.
Yeah.
I would just go on the show and I would not do anything different. because I would probably screw up enough things on my own, and everybody else would be screwing up pretending they were the mole to give me cover.
Yeah.
Like that's optimal mole strategy right there. If you are the mole, all you have to do is nothing.
I mean, has anybody really screwed up any of the tasks to the point where, like, I don't know, I feel like that we've seen a couple of like people like have some mishaps, but it feels like that they seem like to have like logical explanations to us.
Well, if you are going to go out there and sabotage something and you're the mole, you better have a good reason that you can give people for your cover. But honestly, all I see are a lot of people screwing up hugely in ways that are trying to put the suspicion onto them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like the big screw ups, they're too big to be mole moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think wagering the entire pot for an exemption, that's not a mole move. That's I want people to think I'm the mole move.
And I think they all did it. Like, I think they all were going for it. Jess, okay, can I give you my quick galaxy brain? Let's go just to start at the end where, okay, we end episode 5 with all of the money that was in the pot. Was it at 59,500 and then goes down to 0?
Yep.
So somebody bid $59,500 to win the exemption in the blind auction. First, I think my move would have been, I think I would have been on the correction. I feel like I could have like got in with like a lowball offer. Just give me one. Nobody's going to be that mad at me. I know somebody's going to like go crazy and go for the exemption next. That's a good move, right?
Yeah, it's a great move.
Yeah.
I would have Price is Righted it, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I would have bid $1 and then I would have just like seen it and try to talk everybody else out of it.
Out of the correction? Or the exemption?
Yeah, or get on the exemption. But the correction, that makes sense. You could just get your correction for $1.
Get the correction for $1. At least like, okay, at least I'm going to be one up on everybody. But yeah, somebody bid $59,500. We don't know who it is. Do you have a guess to hazard?
If I had a guess to hazard, this seems like it might be a Muna move. But it could also be like we've already seen Hannah do some reckless things for exemptions.
Yes.
If I had to guess, I would say this seems to me like a Hannah thing because we've seen her already willing to be pretty reckless with the money.
Yeah. I think it was either Hannah or I think it was Michael, where it seems like that Michael is another person in this camp of like, oh, if I do things that make me look like the mole, that's going to help me. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people are playing this way and very few people are playing for, let me put money into the prize pot.
Yeah, but Michael's the best at it, clearly, because everybody voted him as the player they most likely think would be the mole.
Yeah. Do you think Michael is the mole?
Can't be. Because nobody on this cast is smart enough to correctly peg the mole this early in the game.
Yeah, that was my pick, that it was Michael.
Let alone
I do not think Michael is the mole. No. I think I was wrong with my prediction. Who was your prediction from Friday?
Well, my predictions were all wrong because all of those people are gone now.
Yes.
Because I said Melissa had mole upside, and I said I really wanted it to be Tony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have the names of everybody here to talk about. I feel like that we're moving at a pretty good pace in terms of the eliminations. I feel like sometimes on these Netflix reality shows, it's like we go a couple episodes without eliminations. I think we're doing pretty good so far. We've got, who's gone so far? Melissa, Tony, Andy, Jen. So what, four down, 8 to go?
Yeah, that's a third of the cast. So that tracks perfectly. I will say I'm glad that we're eliminating people at this clip, but I really hate the way they pace Netflix reality episodes because I do not like that the fact that Netflix knows you're going to watch them all at once.
Yeah.
And so it edits it. We didn't watch 4 episodes of The Mole. We watched 1 4-hour episode of The Mole.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't like that because I guess maybe it's just because I'm an OG reality fan, and you can back me up on this, Rob, because you are as well. The whole point of reality shows, back when reality shows were everywhere, was that you watched this self-contained 45-minute segment of a larger story, and at the end of that story, what happened?
Somebody got voted off.
Somebody got voted off. Thank you. And they don't do that on Netflix. They just kind of stick those eliminations wherever the F they feel like it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to eliminate someone 20 minutes into an episode, or I'm not going to eliminate somebody at the end of this episode to make you keep watching, to like trigger your little dopamine receptors to make you have to go and get more. And I don't like being toyed with. I'm not here to be toyed with, Netflix.
That's what they do.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. I much prefer, okay, let's read the chapter. Let's close the book. Let's put it on the shelf. Let's talk about it. And we don't even get an elimination at the end of the week. We have to end everything on a cliffhanger.
I don't like that because it's never a good enough cliffhanger. The juice is never worth the squeeze on that.
No.
Like, what's going to happen? We're going to come back and they're going to reveal it. It's going to be, Like, at that point, it's been a week. I don't care. I watched a lot of TV between now and then.
Yeah. I mean, I have all the episodes. You don't need to cliffhanger me between episodes 3 and 4, but I guess that's the algorithm. That's how they keep you watching. All right. We could go on and on about this, but we have too much mole to talk about. Okay, so when we last left our players, we needed to see who was going to get eliminated. It was going to be either Niche, Jennifer, or Deanna, who was going to be the first person out, as we're joined here by Brooklyn Zed. Zed, how are you?
Hello. My raft fell apart. I took forever to rappel down the
walls.
wall.
Story.
Listen, the mole has sabotaged me left and right over the last couple of days. So
I think that's exactly what the mole would say. No. But seriously, Zed, great to have you here with us. Justin and I just set the table for this week of mole shenanigans. Do you have any thoughts about the week at large now that you've seen all 5 episodes?
Just the kind of yo-yoing structure of the pot that we're working with in terms of, it seems like every episode we get the big mission where they earn all the money, and then we get some smaller, if we all just do nothing, we'll get more money project that inevitably means they lose all of their money. It seems to be a pattern that's happening every
it's a little bit
day.
Of Sisyphus's prize pot here on the mole.
Yeah.
We earn the money and we give it all back.
I mean, it's so cynical because everybody is clearly working from the assumption that at the end of the game, the producers are not going to want to award somebody $20 at a bus ticket. They are going to put money, they're going to keep seeding that pot as often as they drain it because they want people to be playing for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not unlike traders where whatever money they haven't earned so far, that's the amount that the final task will be worth.
Yeah. Then we got to see if the producers really F with them and then, make the winner only get like $12. Don't make them be like, oh, the last task is worth $175,000.
Or he'll say, I'm feeling generous, so I'll round it up to $100. And an Applebee's gift card.
Yeah. How are we feeling about Ari Shapiro through week 1? Have we warmed up to him?
A bit.
Yeah.
A bit. He's not really dollar store Andy Coops anymore. He's more like the love child of traders Alan Cumming and Andy Coops.
Okay.
And
yeah,
I don't
think
hate
that's
it.
Right. Yeah, it does feel more like a trader's host almost than it does a mole host, for whatever that's worth. But kind of somewhere in between Alan Cumming and Claudia Winkleman of the UK traders.
Yeah, he seems to relish in seeing their misfortune.
I like a little bit of Schadenfreude. Because
Yeah.
that was what made Anderson such a good host too. It was because they would do dumb stuff and he would just stand there and laugh at them. And then he'd go out drinking with them. I don't know that the problem with Ari is I don't think he can hang. But like he can't hang the way 2000 Anderson Cooper could hang.
Yeah.
No, but who can?
But who can?
That's true.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I once ranked all of the Amazing Race hosts from the international versions based on who can hang. And it goes Bo Ryan, John Montgomery, Phil Kogan, and then everybody else.
Okay. Big gap.
Big
So
gap.
we left our conversation of who was going to end up being eliminated after episode 1, and it turned out to be Jen. Seemed like a nice lady. But did she dodge a bullet or what? It was Jen, the third roommate with Tony and Hannah.
Yikes. Yeah, I think she was getting kicked to that stray bed that we never saw.
Did she
if things
throw the
lasted much
quiz on
longer.
purpose? Like, check, please. I'll take the
this
early
got uncomfortable.
checkout.
I'm not that heavy a sleeper, guys.
Yeah. When they were, going back to episode 1 of who was going to sleep in what bed, I think that was going to end up being Jen on the cot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we don't know if
the tables turned pretty quickly there.
they made such a big deal out of this mansion that they were going to live at. Were they there one day?
Yeah, I think they had one night in that beautiful place, and we never saw it again.
Yeah, and here we were predicting, like, we're like real mole oracles here, because I think literally everything we predicted in the last podcast has completely not come true. We were like, they're going to stay in one place. They're going to be a little bit less travel-y, a little bit more contemplative. No, they were not. They were going to leave that mansion immediately.
They move around a lot. Okay. So Jen ends up being eliminated, and then very quickly, they don't really do a lot with like the person that's gone. I mean, even like Tony, that when he left, like, Hannah cried about it for a minute, and then we moved on. So they go off to our second task, the treasure hunt over on the Tioman Islands. And there was a lot going on here on the treasure hunt. Zed, what'd you think of treasure hunt task 2?
I think one of the trickiest things about it is everybody was so split up that it's really hard to know what 2/3 of the people are doing. And so if you're not in the group with the person you think is the mole, it's really difficult to kind of gain a whole lot of information, which is almost as important as completing the task itself. And certainly it seems to some people, well, I'd rather keep all information to myself and lose all the money than I would want to work together and achieve our goals. I liked Andy, like Grandpa Knots or whatever we started calling him. Appreciated that a lot. But yeah, it was complicated, right?
This was complicated. Just should the mole tasks be this complicated? Shouldn't the mole tasks be like very easy so that if somebody makes a mistake, it's very suspicious?
Well, that's the problem here. I think they're overcorrecting for that, because if it's really super easy and somebody screws up, it's like mole. But we need to give them a lot of cover, and I think we give them too much cover in this instance, because they're like, I couldn't follow this.
There was too much going on. 3 teams is too much, and they're cutting back and forth. I was having a hard time keeping track of who was on what team. There was a raft building team. There was a then go up to the smashing rocks team, and then there was a go out to the shipwreck team. And all 3 teams needed to be working together. I mean, somehow they won this task, which is the most amazing part.
That was amazing. I feel like they do something very similar on the traders that works a lot better, because it's a lot more straightforward. It's like you have a map and you got to find a treasure. That's fun.
No, knowing where we are now, were there any things from this shipwreck treasure hunt that in hindsight still look suspicious?
I think it was Michael who dropped the case that they had to get from the shipwreck, but that did look like it was really far down. And if that thing was heavy, that's just difficult. Like, that seems like something that's hard, and which makes it all the easier to flub it if you choose to. And that seemed to be the thing people were most suspicious of, but I think it was just difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to dive down and like get to the bottom. Like, the only experience I have with this was in Survivor All-Stars, that there was one of the few challenges I got to compete in, that there was like a boat that we had to like get all of the crates out from and then flip the boat over. And I tried to get down there like 2 or 3 times, and you could go so far, and unless you're like an expert diver, like it's really hard to go that far under the water.
Yeah, this is why like most divers will put weights on themselves to go down.
Yeah, or you pull yourself down with a rope, and I don't think that there was anything like that.
Yeah, how much have we seen people struggle, like when they had to detach buoys in Survivor or something? You have to dive further and further down to get them, and people struggle. And that is with a rope to pull yourself down. Just diving straight to the bottom of the ocean seems like a difficult thing to do for anybody.
Yeah, well, people are buoyant. People float. We're made to float.
Yeah.
Like, we all float down here.
Yeah. Niche was catching some heat, certainly from Tony in this. Do we think that Niche is a real candidate to be the mole?
I could see Niche having mole potential. Especially if that first challenge was indeed rigged.
Yeah. And wasn't he also a part of the jewel heist team that didn't succeed? And I think
I believe Niche. Niche was on the team that did. He opened the clue.
He flipped the coin. That's what it was.
Right.
He opened the clue.
Yeah.
And that felt like you've got to know you're so close that the clue that you're going to get is not going to help you by this point. It's not going to say, yes, you have your 2 numbers. Here's the order they go in. And that's what they needed by then.
So I personally don't think that Niche is the mole. I think that he's just like often put in the position of having to be sort of like the leader, and then does not necessarily
people
know
get
what to
annoyed at
do.
him for doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those situations like, in early Survivor where they would send the same person to Exile Island over and over so that you knew that one person had the clue. It's like, we're just going to make Niche be in charge of stuff over and over because then we don't have to memorize everybody's leadership style.
Yeah, but just there is that one moment where I think it's on the way to the hotel task where they were like, okay, the group that you're in the car with is going to be your group for this task, and you need to select a leader. And Niche is like, okay, I know where this is going. You're going to make me the leader again. And Melissa's like, not necessarily. That wasn't quite where I was going with this.
I think he also said, I've worked really hard to become a natural leader.
Yeah.
And I think inherently you can't work really hard to become a natural anything.
That's a good point.
Definition.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
Yeah. Okay. So the saga of money in, money out begins here. Okay, so we end up with a big score after we end up getting the treasure from the shipwreck. So good job there. However, the team then goes out to a bar, and here comes Ari to say that the last person sitting here will get an exemption. And so we start ticking money away. I think they're at about 45,000 at this point when the money starts going off the clock, and both Tony and Hannah are saying, well, I'm not leaving. I'm getting an exemption today.
I will watch this TV hit 0.
Yeah. Tony said, I'm not even here for the money. I'm here to win.
Yeah, well, obviously he's here to get cast on Battle Camp.
Yes.
He's
Did you
not
know
here.
about this, Zed?
No.
Tony is on Battle Camp,
Oh boy.
and his new
Great.
name is Antonio.
I mean, he introduced himself as Antonio in the beginning, but people just called him Tony.
Yeah, he's a Tony.
Not
He's-
my Antonio.
No, I mean, like, you have a child named Anthony, you don't call him Tony.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
But I did that. Look, I thought that the Tony and Hannah dynamic was just chef's kiss for me on the mole. I just was just like watching in complete shock.
Well, you know, Rob loves to be uncomfortably close to a showman's.
Yes, anytime. So it came down to Tony and Hannah and who could do it. And we get for the first time, Hannah's like, watch this. I'm going to manipulate Tony. I'm going to get that exemption. And it worked.
I'm tilting my head. I'm flipping my hair. I'm batting my eyelashes. I say, Tony, get up. Get up, Tony.
Yeah. She says she gets everything she wants when she flirts. She tells Tony to get up, and he does.
Well, you know, we've never
Wild.
seen this on reality television before. We've never seen a pretty girl come in and say, I'm going to flirt to get what I want. This is like emergent gameplay here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To me, though, I always like to see it when it happens. Like, I feel like a lot of times there's times where women are being accused of this, and they either like are not necessarily doing it or may not be doing it. But I like to see it when Hannah is like, okay, telling us this is what she's doing.
Yeah, I like it when somebody deliberately employs it and it works.
Mm-hmm.
That does make me happy.
Yeah, no, it's not like the other players are like, she's Delilah.
Yeah.
Must be the mole. Look at her with using her womanly charm on nice Anthony.
Sort of like a Venus from this past season. Like, well, she's extremely pretty. Clearly, she's sly and crafty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it goes down to 9,700. Ari does them a favor, kicks it back up to $10,000 in the mole pot. And so we have that second quiz. And Zed, we talked about this in the open, but after poor Andy goes home, Hannah and Tony just start kissing in front of everybody.
Yeah, I had already clocked the like hands on each other's knees, and I was like, that already felt like a lot to be doing in front of people. And then poor Andy walks away and they kiss, and I was like, haven't you known each other like 3 days? Like, what
Right?
is going on? I understand we're not on an island, but at the same time, and they're 23 and 24, like they're young. And so
Yeah.
these things feel exciting quickly, but still, just in front of everybody seems like a
There's-
bad idea.
There's an interesting conversation happening in the live chat right now, which I think is
Yes?
a very good point. If you are the mole, isn't it some kind of HR violation to make out with the
Oh.
contestants?
Hmm.
So
'Cause
could
you're
we
production?
then say that Hannah cannot possibly be the mole because it would be inappropriate for the mole to use her makeout skills to
Yeah.
sabotage the contestants?
Do you think, and that's why they had to throw Tony a bone and put him on another show?
Throw him a bony.
Oh, no. I think that's what Hannah did.
See, this is I'm trying to fill the Josh Wigler void here because you know he would have said that.
Mission accomplished. Yeah. So I don't think Tony's complaining, to be honest.
Nope, he's got no problems. He got
Yeah,
cast on
his
another
life
show.
is
That's what he
fine.
came for.
He's fine. Okay. All right. So we go to Forest City for task number 3. And here we have teams, they go in separate cars. They have to select their leaders. Melissa and Sean end up getting selected. We got a lot of Sean in the back half of week number 1. How are we feeling about Sean, who that we were a little confused in the first episode? Is he a stay-at-home dad or is he an undercover cop? He turns out that he's telling people he's a stay-at-home dad, right?
I think
I
he
think
used
he's
to be a cop.
retired. Cop,
Retired.
Yeah.
Okay. But he
Or
left that part
former,
out.
whether
Yes.
retired or not. Yeah. Which some people have now learned through the
Mhm.
watching of the video, which was a big.
Yes.
That seems to be the one thing anyone gained from everyone watching those videos.
In
Is
movie
some
night.
people learned he used
Yeah.
to be a cop,
Um,
and he is terrified of heights.
yes, allegedly. But he's probably not acting, right? He just got over it.
I think so. I think the scariest thing about activities like that is the anticipation of it. And once you realize that the harness is not going to drop you to your death,
Yeah.
and you figure out how the mechanism works, and you let your heart rate calm down a little bit again, then you're good to go. And he flew down that thing.
Yeah.
So the other possibility is he just wanted to get it over with as fast as possible because
Could
he was
be.
still scared.
Yeah, so Sean and Melissa, they end up being the two people who are the captains. They both are afraid of heights. They need to rappel down the wall, get to the 4th floor, which has the red chair, and then let everybody in to do the big heist. So ultimately, both teams get into their rooms, but both teams are having trouble figuring out the code here in these rooms. They end up needing to put batteries in the flashlight to get the black light working, but still, neither of the teams are having too much success here.
It
No,
seems-
and somebody, it might have even been Tony, was like, we don't need the flashlight. There's no point. And I was like, it's the one thing you
Mhm.
have.
yeah,
gotta
this thing they
figure
gave
it
us, they
out.
probably gave us that for no reason whatsoever. You know what is really the shame of all of this is that we lose Andy before this challenge happens, because apparently the headline on Andy that Zed told me about. You want to go ahead and tell them about this, Zed?
Yeah, so I found this in one of the, I think it was from Today, as in the publication Today.
Okay.
Andy is an escape room aficionado
Oh,
who has done 93% of the globe's 600 escape rooms.
wait, there
that's
has
like-
to be more than 600 escape rooms in
But
the
still,
world.
that's like 560 escape rooms this man
catching
has
up to
done.
Kurt Clark.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Truly, they probably met.
Yeah, I bet Kurt knows this guy. I bet he's done an escape room with him.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, good on Andy. I guess that's probably how they found him.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't trapped in the escape room because he's probably really good at them and he
He
got, out.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
they could have used him this time because this was basically just watching other people do an escape room, which honestly doesn't excite me.
Mhm.
If I want to watch other people do escape rooms, I can go hang out with Kurt Clark.
Mhm. Yeah. Did
Yeah,
you think
it's
this
tough
was
when you
too much
can't play
escape room?
along.
Yeah, I've never done one. I don't like being locked into things.
Okay. Did you like this as a task, Jess?
I liked the puzzle element. I liked all of the numbers being everywhere. That was kind of fun because I felt like it really did give people they should have figured it out much sooner, but on the other hand, I know the pressure of these situations, and I guess it was okay. It went on for far too long.
Yeah. It was also like again, I don't know if this is a good way to do it. I didn't love like the bouncing back and forth between the two teams of like who was where when they're doing the same exact thing. I think it was a little bit hard to follow, but maybe that's just me. Was there any mole-ish behavior that either of you clocked here?
I mean, we already highlighted.
Niche choosing to open the clue.
But he also flipped the coin and got it right. So I feel like that. I feel like he was redeemed.
Well, no, at this point, if you are Niche and you are the mole, you have opened the clue. You've already cost some money. And then you can't just like start openly campaigning for the wrong one. You really
also
have to
put the money in the pot because who cares? They're going to lose it all. The mole has learned they'll get rid of it all anyway. So there's no reason to stop them winning money in these tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like let people do your work for you. All you have to do is nothing. But I could see a world in which he's just pushing the coin flip so that he doesn't have to like start openly campaigning for the wrong answer. He could just be like, well, 50-50, I have rolled this up.
Yeah. At least his team got it. The Sean team came back with nothing.
Yeah. I enjoyed Muno being like, have you ever seen a movie? The safe is going to be behind a photo. And then it was, and she was so excited. That was a really fun moment that I continue to not think Muna is the mole.
No, I don't think Muna is the mole either. Q also was in charge of the black light for the Sean team. That Q did not clock that, and literally on the clock, that some of the numbers needed to have the black light shine in their direction to light them up. Do we think that Q is mole-ish, or is Q just not an amazing player at the mole?
I think Q doesn't have any poker face. He's either delivering an Oscar-worthy performance, or he is not. He doesn't have the cool, calm, and collective to be the mole.
Yes, I like what you did there, Jess. Yeah. It's the 3 C's.
It's been on my mind lately.
Yeah,
that's you, not Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, we get some money into the pot here, ultimately, and we then send everybody to lunch, and we're gonna put some money back in the prize pot here, where we have the fortune cookie bluff game. And the crew does pretty good here with 5 exemptions on the line. Only Michael ends up walking away with an exemption. Maybe that's why so many people think he's the mole after this. What do we think about the fortune cookie standoff?
I was impressed. These people seem to be able to suss out each other's like lying tells really well after a very short period of time, which was impressive to me.
Yeah. Which read impressed you the most?
Oh. You have thoughts, Jess?
I don't have thoughts, honestly. I was impressed by all of them because I think I got them all wrong while I was watching. That's why I don't go on the knoll. Yeah. But I honestly, like the one that I did think was not a very good performance. I thought I could tell very easily that Ryan was lying. Like she had on her face this look that just said to me deception. This was like everything they teach you in those like criminal profiling seminars about how to tell if someone's lying. She was doing all of those things at once.
Yeah. She went up against Tony, and I don't know if people thought Tony was, I think they thought that he would be a liar, but maybe would not be capable of tricking them.
I think that is a fair assessment.
Yeah. They're like, if Tony was lying, I think we would know.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then we had I thought the rules were a little hard to follow also in terms of like, all right, you would vote for the person that you think is lying, and then we would like vote again with the same people.
Because there would only be 2 that were telling the truth for the lower amounts.
Yeah, I thought that we would just do it heads up, but I guess maybe there was no way to do it fair.
Yeah, because they could have just gone around and said, I have $10,000, and you could decide if you thought that individual person was lying or not.
Yeah, to
Mhm.
tell the truth style.
Right.
Yeah. But ultimately, we end up with only Michael getting the exemption, and we rebuild the pot here up to 60K. And at this point, it's like, all right, look, no harm, no foul. We're doing good. We got a lot of money back in the pot.
Significant
60K.
progress, briefly.
Yep,
We're
great work, team.
making good progress. Okay. We have test number 3. Melissa ends up being eliminated. Now, to me, Melissa is talking a lot about niche. I thought it was very suspicious about niche. Now, she did say that she was going to split her votes, but to me, I feel like that niche, in my book, I think is clear of being the mole when Melissa goes out.
That's a good point.
She was the one. She's always suspicious of him, and she thought it was very shady about how he opened the clue. And then she did say she was going to split her answers, but I feel like that if a person is saying who their number one suspect is and then they get eliminated, I feel like that's probably like Andy thought it was, I think, very shady about Tony with the barrels, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was really stuck on the barrels flying up from the handmade raft with
I tied them so
rope.
great. But Melissa goes out, and we see Tony and Hannah kissing again.
Ew.
I guess you can't do a lot to like break up a showmance on a show like this. So even if you see it as a threat that they're clearly sharing information, like what can you do about it other than not share information with either one of them in your coalition? But we
You
don't
could
know
make it
anybody
really
else.
uncomfortable for them.
This is true.
Like you see them making out, you could just go sit really close to them.
Mhm.
They are sitting really close. They don't seem to care.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it a good thing though if there are people that are hooking up on the mole? Isn't that good that they're not like doing research?
Yeah, they're a little distracted. They're not paying enough attention.
They're very distracted. Although maybe they're doing like very extensive research on one specific person.
You could look at it that way.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
but
it.
again, if
I'm
you
going to search this person.
I'm not sure. I'm not
I have
sure
to see if they're wearing a wire.
On the roof of their mouth.
Let's talk about movie night. All right. There's a movie's showing. So you're going. Could care less about the 5K you're blowing.
Okay.
All right. So special movie night. It only costs $5,000 to go see the movie. What's the harm? Okay.
And it's not even in IMAX.
Yeah. Go text Ari if you want to go see the movie. All right. Nice Q says, I'm not going to the movie.
Big mistake. You shouldn't have done that.
8 other people go to the movie.
This poor man, he's so fed up. He's like, I'm trying so hard to put money in this pot, and every single other person is working against me. It's supposed to be the opposite.
Like, you know who Q is? Q is that guy on Too Hot to Handle that takes the rules very seriously and like starts policing people when they try to hook up.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, we just need to like get through this week. We'll take home all the money. And then they go to the ceremony. And there's $0. So Q,
Yeah.
Q has an early night, but everybody else goes to the movies. Do you think that if you pick the same movie as somebody, shouldn't you have gone to that theater and like you walked in like, oh, what are you doing here?
That would have been an interesting way to gain some information around like who else has your suspicions. And I think if they were told that in advance, then you have to make the calculation that they're making in some of the other tasks of, do I let on who I'm suspicious of if other people are going to learn that that's my train of thought?
Yeah.
But I think they all just watched it by themselves.
Okay. Yeah, they all were watching by themselves because we saw like split screen and people watching the same things.
Yeah.
Okay.
We come to this place for magic.
Yeah, we got a bunch of different people watching movies. That really the one piece of actionable information I think seems to be that Sean talks about being an undercover police officer. However, was this particularly useful for anything else?
I mean, did somebody in the chat say something about Hannah's background being different, or
They said her top.
her top was something she was
This
already
is from,
wearing? Yeah.
Petite Chow Pumpkin. Did anyone notice that Hannah's top for her movie was the same as her confessionals? Also seemed like it was shot in a hotel. So maybe a last minute mole thing to do?
Sort of the season 2, like no spoilers of who the mole was. Like, we're going to swap everybody's journals. So you got to go keep a journal. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You need to tell us how you would act if you were the mole. So we got to shoot this real quick because we didn't do that for you.
Mhm.
I don't think it's that's a really good observation. But outside of that, I don't think it's especially useful because nobody knows how they're actually going to play when they get into these games.
Yeah.
It always ends up being different than you thought.
Do you know, like, in terms of like the production process of like, they don't like zero in on one person. Okay, you're going to be our mole, right? Like they cast the show and then they decide who the mole is going to be, right?
Now, in my research, which consists of reading a memoir written by the season 2 mole, they already cast everybody. And then out of that cast, they selected a mole. That's how they used to do it. They may do it differently now, but I would guess that they probably still like, this is our group, and now we're going to choose this person to be our mole.
Yeah. Okay. So we get the Hannah movie. But I feel like everybody says the same thing. Like, okay, so if I'm the mole, I'm going to act like, oh, I'm so dumb. I just made a mistake, but I'm really going to be sabotaging it. Like, oh my God.
Like,
what a game-breaking strategy.
We're going to do the mole?
Again, best mole strategy. All you have to do is nothing.
Truly.
Yeah. So there was the Sean movie. 3 people went to go see the Sean movie. Muna, Michael, and Ryan. They all got that information about Sean being the undercover cop. Mostly it's going to be important for Michael, who's going to keep a very close eye on Sean. Next day, pool time. Tony and Hannah get in some make out by the pool.
Is this when Muna asks them if they were in their rooms all night?
Yeah.
I guess they're not roommates anymore.
Yeah. We get the reveal. 8 of you went to movie night. Q's beside himself.
Understandably so.
Like, it's starting to feel like this sort of like, jury duty situation for poor Q. Like, maybe it's not that there is one mole, it's that everybody is a mole except Q.
Oh,
poor Q.
Reverse mole.
All right. 8 of you went to movie night, so prize pot drops down to about, what is it, 20K at this point? Before we have, okay, good news, everybody. You're going to a gala. And so we've let out some special clothes for you to go to the gala. Bad news is you're working the gala.
Surprise.
Like, how did they had to know that was what was going to happen?
Yeah. What did they think was going to happen? Hannah's like, where's my dress? They gave me the wrong outfit.
You gave the wrong outfit. You're working the gala. Okay, so we've got a big gala at the Patronus Towers. 60 people are coming. 57 people are giving crappy gifts, but 3 people are giving cash. A pilot, a doctor, and an artist.
The pilot won't sit next to the artist. The doctor must sit next to the pilot. Yeah, you get this
One
right.
of them
You get
has
into
a
law
peanut
school.
allergy, but
yeah, there's peanut allergy for sure. Okay, so I did like this task. I think this might have been my favorite out of all of the tasks in week 1. I liked that they were dressed up, they were working the events, they were like the 2 teams were doing different things, but they had to work together. This one worked for me.
Yeah, having them split into groups that are actively communicating is much more interesting than having 3 separate groups in the woods and on the beach and in the ocean, or 2 separate groups doing the exact same thing but completely unrelated to each other. And it was kind of like a real life Guess Who, where you had certain clues to determine how you could rule people out, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah, I thought they really executed that well. I liked all of the pictures of everybody up on the wall and then everybody who was down on the floor trying to figure things out. So the big subplot here is that Sean notices Michael watching him. And so now Sean is like, okay, well, I gotta feed into this because Michael is watching me. And so I gotta screw up on purpose because that if Michael's watching me, I gotta make him think that I am actually the mole. And Sean does a little thing, little harmless thing. Nobody's gonna notice. He takes one of the pictures off of the wall and blatantly puts it in his pocket. What are the chances?
Truly.
Yeah,
It's like if somebody's watching you, they already probably think you're the mole. I don't think you need to do more.
Mm-hmm.
You can just keep going and be like, ah, yes, I see you. Watch. They're a little bit like Spider-Man memeing each other. They're like, I'm watching you. No, I'm watching you. Kind of for the whole rest of this episode.
Yeah. Zed, do you think there's any chance either of these two guys is the mole?
I think it's certainly possible. My suspicions are still relatively high on Michael, who I believe was your premier
my pick, but
mole
I'm out.
pick.
I don't think it's Michael anymore.
Yeah?
I have reverse scores because I just feel
Okay.
like that we're getting so much of like Michael, like his thought process of trying to make people think he's the mole. And maybe this is something that they changed from season 1, but I wonder, would they give us confessionals from the real mole talking about how they're trying to make people vote for them for being the fake mole?
I mean, that's exactly what the mole would say.
Some big brain strategy.
This is
But
like-
would the real mole be trying to do things to garner suspicion onto themselves? Like, is that the strategy that the real mole would play?
well, since they know what the strategy is that the not moles play.
Mm-hmm.
But
You
they
know-
don't know that I know that they know.
Yeah, this
Mhm.
cup cannot be poisoned because the poison would be in your cup.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to make it so obvious that I'm the mole that they won't vote for me in their quiz, which will make it easier for me to be the real mole.
Yeah. It's, how many layers of double bluff are we working with here is ultimately the question.
I just suspect that they would not do it that way. And maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that the show is like, I think it would like, the people that are watching this show, like it would melt their brains if like that's what the show was doing, where the mole was being so obvious that they were the mole to trick people to think that they're not the mole.
I think it's up to every individual mole to decide how they want to play it. And I think they would not cast somebody as the mole that gave it that much thought.
Maybe not.
Well, I think it's also dependent on who the people are that you're playing with, because certainly, the cast of people we had in season 2 of the original Mole are a very different group of people than the group that we have on these Netflix seasons, where you don't have to try as hard.
Okay. I want to talk about what I think is a very important moment that ends up happening. So down on the floor, there's a lot of talk about who has the red wine, who has the dumpling, who has the chicken satay, and there's a moment, and it's a subtle moment, but it ends up looming large here as Tony gets eliminated. But we see that Hannah clocks Ryan misidentifies the I was going to call it an entree, but it's really an appetizer that one woman is eating. She's eating the chicken, and Ryan said she had the dumpling. Was this an honest mistake, or could Ryan be the mole?
I'm liking Ryan as the mole.
Me too.
This is pretty good
Ooh.
because I'm liking that she's not calling attention. Like she's screwing up, but she's not like it's very small, subtle stuff she's doing.
And so furthermore, Hannah clocks this information. She does not share it with Antonio. Tony ends up doing the worst on the quiz and ends up going home, where Hannah does not share this information with him. Tony did not have the information to think that Ryan could be the mole. Now, I have one other piece of information that I feel like could point to Ryan being the mole. Go back to the paintball challenge that we thought was fugazi to begin with. And we said, could it have been Niche that it was, if he was the mole, that he made it so he couldn't lose? But Niche was out of bullets. It was Ryan who had the one magic paintball that was left. And who hit the shot to ultimately take out the last person? It was Ryan. Could there have been a second gunman in the grassy knoll that was like the sharpshooter that was behind Ryan to make sure that nobody ended up getting through?
And didn't we even say last week, nobody was checking for bullet holes?
No, they were just falling over. Yeah, I think that's a great argument, Rob.
Yeah, I'm in on Ryan. I'm in on until proven otherwise. I think, Michael out. I'm in on Ryan.
Yeah, I'm sold on it too now.
Tried to bluff in the $20,000 game. Got the misfortune of going up against Tony that could not bluff for anything.
Yeah, and she was trying to lie badly, I think. Like, she was the only one that looked like she was obviously lying.
Yeah, she really did that. Stuff. She really did that to herself by waiting until Tony said, I have the 20,000. And she said, yes, I have the 20,000.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Also, I believe going back to when Tony and Hannah were sitting out trying to wait it out, I think that Ryan was the other person who was before Tony and Hannah. I think she was like, all right, I'm out. These people are crazy. But I think she was willing to run that money off the clock.
I mean, it's like it felt like such a lose-lose situation. There's no point in just continuing to sit there, really, because ultimately everybody's got to get up to stop the clock at all.
Yeah,
but it's just gonna keep going, and somebody's gonna get an exemption. So what are you gonna do? Be the reason you lost all the money, or get up?
Okay. Well, part of the reason they end up losing this task ends up being, was it Ryan's fault that they lost? It seems like that one person was because of Sean, because that the person with the glittery dress, the doctor, was not available to be selected. How did they screw up the pilot?
Was
it just like a miscommunication?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, I think they needed to check the coat room tag.
Oh, and they were looking at him upside down, right?
But they were running out of time, and they were like, it's either table 2 or table 9 or something like that. And they just kind of, I think, went with a guess at that point, because they just had to make a final call.
Yeah. Okay, that was from Ryan's mess up. That was the pilot at table 9 had the chicken. Okay, the pilot was because of Ryan. Okay. Because of Ryan. Okay, so
yes.
Okay, so I screwed up that. I thought it was a woman that they messed up the appetizer. It was because of the pilot chicken thing.
And you kind of described it so well that I was like, it just overwrote my memory of what actually happened.
I apologize about that. What ended up happening was like, I watch a lot of shows on the treadmill. I was watching The Mole on the treadmill this morning, and my kids were fighting. And so that my kids were fighting over something, and then that one kid came in and was telling on the other one during that part. And I went back and I watched it again when I was eating dinner before, but I got it wrong the second time.
Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself, Rob. Because
I'm not the mole of the podcast. No. I just don't want people to think that.
I just want to say Mike Bloom does this to me constantly, and doesn't even have the excuse of a kid bothering him because his kid is pretty contained.
Yeah, he doesn't have another kid to fight with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So ultimately, it was very sad when they opened the presents and they only got one money. Ultimately, they got a teapot. They got one fish.
That random fish. That was so bizarre.
It's a cute fish.
Yeah.
I would like to know what some more of the gifts were.
Really ties the room together.
So ultimately, we go to quiz number 4 on the helipad. And surprise, it's Tony.
I was so gutted. I really wanted him to be the mole.
Yeah.
He's just been such fun energy on the show in general. He's like, yeah, guys, I'm going to do this. And I don't care if you like it or not. That's what I'm doing today.
It was super
we're
fun.
actually okay. You did it again, Rob.
What did I do?
Okay, because Tony doesn't go home until like he goes home at the top of episode 5, right?
Yes.
We
I
skipped over
skip
right over
something?
Melissa, didn't we?
No, we talked about Melissa.
Okay.
Did we not talk about Melissa?
That maybe I because we said that she wanted niche out. That's
that's
why
right.
I felt like
And
that
so we
niche
don't.
was.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
But yeah, this is when Tony goes out, and so yeah, I thought that they don't really give Tony and Hannah a moment after they get voted out. Like, where
must
is like
immediately leave the game.
Yeah, where's like the Adam and Candace goodbye kiss?
Or the montage of those 2 players from the first season of The Genius that we never saw together. And then you saw the footage of the 2 of them every single time for the next 3 episodes because they were clearly so in love.
Like, can they hug? Come on.
I feel like OG Mole used to at least like let everybody say goodbye to each other as friends.
Yeah, they would like hug everybody on the way out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd hug Anderson on the way out. But
okay,
yeah, I don't even
Rico
think
says,
I
no
don't think Ari's
colluding,
gonna be-
LOL, just up and go. Sorry.
Colluding or canoodling?
Either one.
little column A, little column B.
Okay.
But I could see somebody being like, you are hugging your showman's by and you whisper in their ear, I thought it was this person. That could be a problem.
Don't trust Michael. Okay. All right. Episode 5, our final episode. Jess, this was our Amazing Race final task challenge here. Let's go with the shipping containers. Find all the shipping containers from the USA.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go straight to Amazing Race, honestly. I went to Dexter for this one. I
Okay.
was waiting for somebody to jump out and be like, surprise, mother effer. But
Yes. The Dokes, is that the guy's name?
yeah, it was Dokes.
Yeah.
And you
All
used to have that drop on your soundboard and it kept going off at the wrong time.
Yeah, so it surprised me every time.
Back in the
Yes.
day. It was great. So yeah, this was the shipping containers, and I was amazed.
After we're not shipping Tony and Hannah anymore.
No more.
We
Yeah,
gotta ship
new
somebody.
ships.
Yep. So I was frankly amazed that they found everything.
Yeah.
How did
Place
they
looked
do that?
really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they made it easy. Like, it wasn't really, the task wasn't about finding the money. It was about putting it in the right container ultimately. So we get these 3 trailers here, and I thought this was interesting. And I wanted to know, is this game breaking in any way of, okay, here are the top 3 people that you all are voting for. Now, do we know for sure that these are the top 3 answers on the board?
Well, that was my question.
Speaking of Big Brother Family Feud coming up in a little bit.
They definitely said one of these people is the person who has the most suspicion on them based on your quiz answers. But I don't know if it was the top 3 or if the other 2 were just dummy answers.
Yeah.
And there's few enough people in there that the mole could just vote for literally anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That feels like a lot of information when you're down to what, 7 or 8 people to say these 3, this half of the group is your most likely people.
Yeah.
The problem with, all of this suspicions and the movie task and everything, there's so much confirmation bias that everybody that went to go watch a movie, like, they're all like, oh, okay, I was right. They're totally being, that's exactly what they're doing. Nobody went to go watch the movie like, all right, nah, I don't think so. Nah, that's not tracking for me.
I think the one instance where that might have happened is if you have somebody
Tony and Hannah, where he's like, oh no, she's perfect.
There's another one, yeah. But if you go in, if you watch like a video of a Tony or even a Q, you go in and you watch their video and they are a completely different person in front of that camera.
Yeah.
Then you could say that's some mole behavior.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Goes back
Tony's
to,
gonna
like,
be Tony.
Yeah, Tony coming out and like speaking with a British accent and being this like Shakespearean actor. Then I would wonder, but I feel like
in the theater they call me Anthony.
like if they're breaking character in that interview, but that's the only thing that you could clock because everybody else is just be like, well, if I was the mole, I'd do this. You're probably doing it anyway, and it's probably not different from what you would do if you weren't the mole.
Good note for future mole players. If you're going to play a character, play that character in your interviews that they're recording.
Of course.
Okay. All right. So we have to pick who is going to be the most likely or the most suspicious mole contestant. And so we have this interesting situation with Sean isn't going to say who he is, and he ends up lying that he's voting for Muna when he's actually voting for Michael. And Michael is lying. He's actually voting for Sean, but he's lying, and he says he's voting for Muna, right?
Yes. It seemed a lot of people, well, obviously a lot of people said they were voting for Muna when they weren't. And I was kind of surprised because it seemed like everybody was like, yeah, it makes sense that we're all the most suspicious of Muna. And I was like, based on what?
Mm-hmm.
And why are we all believing each other when we say that?
Yeah, we literally have not talked about Muna once this entire podcast, which shocks me.
Yeah. Well, I think that they like Muna, I think had who seems like really on top of it, but Muna, I think that like came in with like probably the most honest reputation. Muna got picked to be in the phone booth, but then the first time that they saw that Muna is actually a really good liar. Okay, it was like, all right, well, that's it. She's very suspicious. She must be the mole because like the delta between what they thought she was and then what she actually was so off that they feel like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's on them.
That's on them. That's on them. Yeah. And Muna, I think, has them right where she wants them in terms of thinking that she's the mole. I don't think Muna is the mole.
I think Muna is my winner pick.
Yes,
but I think
I
she's
agree.
not the mole.
Still on that. Yeah.
Yep.
She has big winner upside. Who do we put the blame on for the screw up here on going for Muna and not Michael? Is it squarely on Sean?
I would put it on Sean.
Because
But
we
he
can't put it on
also-
Michael.
This was also editing too, because we got a lot of Sean explaining this, and we got a lot of like Sean talking about his own strategy, but that's potentially not what actually spurred the decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Extra blame for Sean for putting the doubler into the Muna truck as well.
Yeah, it reaches a point that they keep talking about of like, well, how much money am I willing to lose to keep my train of thought a secret? And the answer is too much.
The answer is all of the money. The answer is
Yeah.
all money.
I
All
think
right.
Sean is the one who says, the game is you have to still be there. Like you have to keep going in the game. But the game is also you have to make money because otherwise, what are you trying to get to the end of the game for? And he doesn't seem to be doing the getting the money part of the game.
But if there's money in the prize pot and you're not there, then I guess what the hell's the point? So
Right.
I don't know if they need to correct this in some way of making it where that there's some reason why I'm incentivized to add money to the prize pot over just valuing my personal safety in the game completely.
Yeah, top priority is still be there tomorrow. Secondary priority is earn money.
And I
Yeah.
think we mentioned it before. If the production crew thinks there's not enough money in the pot, they're going to correct for that. So
Yeah.
we can
I think
have
they know
zero
this.
monies until the end. And then production's like, well, it would be pointless if we just gave you, $5. We're going to put enough in there to make it worth your while.
Yeah. Maybe does production need to make it so like again, and this happens on Too Hot to Handle also, which is funny
Yes,
that we keep
yes,
referencing this.
exactly.
Does production need to make it so that they can't keep losing all the money? like, okay, the first 3 people to text me will get to go to the movie where they can't lose 40. Like we can't have a blind auction where you can bid $59,000.
Yeah, I think last season they had so much trouble even earning money in the first place that there wasn't even an opportunity to really lose it. And now this time they're earning the money easily enough, but it is far too easy for it to all disappear in one fell swoop.
Honestly, that's more satisfying. I want to see them have stakes and lose stakes. I don't want to see them just not
be
get-
incompetent the
Yeah.
whole time.
I want them to get stuff and lose stuff.
Okay,
I
so
want it up and down.
this is ideal for you then.
This is fine. This is I don't hate this.
It's not my money. I don't care. But
Yeah.
it's been a
Monopoly
wild
money.
ride. Yeah. Whiplash for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
One last game. Okay. We get our blind auction. They brought back the auction this season. All the mole fans were asking for it. They said it broke the game, Jess. They said it was broken, the auction. You can't have the auction anymore. What are the stakes? But they figured out a way to make it interesting again.
The stakes are the whole pot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they're correct. I think that was really great TV because we got to see everybody get really upset about it.
Yeah. First thing up for bids is the dossier. The dossier is so stupid.
Yeah.
This is getting
Like,
into
oh, Miss Lippy has a green car. That's just for you, Jess.
yeah, thank you. I appreciated that.
Mhm.
This is verging on Survivor food auction territory where it's like nobody's gonna bid on the stupid prizes. They're all waiting for the advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And it's not their money anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all their collective money, but so currently it's not yet anyone's money.
Yeah. Then we get the correction. Nobody's buying. Like Ari's like, okay, we're building trust. And like, yeah, all right.
Yeah,
we're
right,
all waiting
whatever.
for it. And then ultimately we get somebody bid $59,500. No money in the prize pot. Zed, we talked about this in the opening. Do you have a theory on who you think took the massive exemption?
I can certainly rule out Muna and Q from that list immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know Sean said he was going for it
Yeah.
outright. And it's almost like, and wasn't he also the one kind of giving the excuse and somebody else was saying, is this you, talking yourself into doing it? Sean feels like a strong possibility to me.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I said I was going to bid on it. I told you guys.
I don't think he would do 59,000 though.
I think Hannah would do 59,000.
Hannah would. I think Michael would. I don't think Deanna would do it. I don't think
No,
Nisha would do it.
I don't think Niche should do
No.
it.
Yeah. It would be great if it was Q. It was like, after all you spent the money in the movie, like this one's for me.
Fine. Yeah. I'm due. It's my turn to spend all the money.
Yeah. I
If it's
guess it
Q's
could
moment
be
in time.
it could be Ryan if I'm buying her as the
Mhm.
mole.
I don't think the mole goes that far though.
Right.
I don't
Right.
think I think this is I'm trying to make people think I'm the mole.
The
behavior.
mole's the only one not trying to make everybody think that they're the mole.
Right. So here's my question. Do we fix this auction by making some or all of the items mystery items?
Mystery items.
Like one of them is an exemption and you can bid on them. Even Monty haul it up and show us one of them.
That would be more interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the second they sat down, they were like, there's going to be an exemption.
Well, what do we want? Do we want everybody to not go for the exemption? Do we want the prize pot to be preserved in some way?
What if they don't offer an exemption? What if they make you think there's an exemption and then the third prize is like something stupid and somebody bids on it anyway?
Well, how about this? What if it's not a blind auction or silent auction? What if it's a real life auction? All right. Like Moon is like, oh, I got 2,000. Like, all right, Moon 2,000. Like Sean, I got 3,000. Like, like be out in the open a little bit more.
I'm curious if the players will get to know who has the exemption, because usually they'll say, okay, all of you except Hannah are going to go take the quiz. But this time, will they say, all of you are going to go take the quiz, except for one of you, you know who you are.
Yeah, one of you
know,
gets
the
to play
way-
Candy Crush.
The way Muna got her correction secretly. Because if that I think is a huge part of the calculation of whether or not it's going to be common knowledge to everybody else that you were the one who spent the whole pot.
Yeah, but on the other hand, what are they gonna do if you spend the whole pot? They can't
do
vote you
anything.
out.
Nope. They couldn't do anything about Tony and Hannah running down the pot.
Nope.
Okay. We got a preview for next week on the mole. I watched it. I feel like, boy, there's a lot of people that are going to be around next week.
The lasers.
Mm-hmm.
Hate laser tasks.
Mm-hmm. You got to have a laser task on the mole, Jess.
I don't like it on the traders and I don't like it here.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch Sari crawl through lasers while holding a vase.
The problem is, I think with the traders is it was the identical challenge in like every single iteration of the
Yes.
traders, and it was not fun the first time I saw it. But yeah, no lasers.
Was
I
there
prefer zero
anything
lasers.
that you saw coming up next week that caught your attention?
Honestly, I'm just here to find out who gambled the pot away.
Yeah. So, Sam, do we know when is the next drop of Mole episodes coming? Is it Thursday?
Or like 3 in the morning
then-
on Friday.
And then I think we get 3 episodes coming out. 3 episodes coming out on Friday. Okay, and so then we will come back and do this again next week on Monday. So it's going to come out over the 4th of July weekend, and then we will get together 1 week from today. Josh Wigler will be with us, and we will talk about everything from week 2, and then it's 2 episodes in finale week, and then we still have to figure out our schedule for that. Probably be better if we can get to those sooner than later to talk about the mole before everybody forgets about it. I think
nice.
so. Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay, anything else about the mole week 1? Okay, we got a question from Waleed. Since it's now a given that the optimal strategy is to make others believe you're the mole, then is the mole's optimal strategy not to sabotage? I think we are in bizarro mole territory.
Yeah.
All you have to do is nothing.
Mm-hmm. Do the opposite.
Yeah.
Everybody
long
does
as
the
they-
opposite.
As long as they have all these opportunities to keep completely draining the pot, the
Mhm.
mole does not have to do anything except play the game with everybody else.
If I'm on the show, I got to look at who's actually doing the task. Then I'll know who the mole is.
Apparently.
There you go.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Who's putting money in the pot? They are clearly the mole.
if I'm on the show, I'm probably just trying to get on perfect match anyway.
They're all just trying to get a perfect match. Right. Okay. All right. Let's see. We had another question from Kevin. Should another player try to form a coalition with Hannah now, knowing Hannah has more info than them because they're working together with Tony? Okay,
Tony's information was not good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think she got a lot of information from
Yeah,
Tony.
I got to get close
She
to
got something,
Hannah.
Tony.
What did Tony know?
Yeah, what'd she get from Tony besides a cold sore? You know?
Oh,
I was gonna say, yeah, nothing we can say on the podcast. I don't think.
Oh, maybe you can't say it.
All right. So there we go. There's the mole. Jonathan says, wasn't it wild that Sean picked the exact right picture in the restaurant task to switch? Didn't he have a 3 out of 60 shot of messing that up? I feel like only the mole would choose the right picture. Yeah, that is a good point, except that the purpose of the mole is to, unless this was like he was like covering in confessional that he did like some sabotage that was so blatantly obvious that Michael saw it. Like, I think that it would be very unmolish for him to, he was like, and then I blatantly took it off the wall so Michael would see.
Yeah, it felt a little bit too obvious, but it's also like maybe he's just really bad at being the mole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's always a valid theory, is the person who is the mole is just really bad at being the mole.
Yeah.
It's been known to happen.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we have final mole and winner predictions? Okay. Winner predictions is probably harder than mole, but do you want to do a round of this at the end of the week?
At the end of every week, I think we have to.
Okay. All right. I'll go first. I'm in on Ryan is the mole. And I'll say Hannah is the winner because I think she's the only person that is saying that Ryan is the mole.
It's a good call out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm also, you've got me on the Ryan is the mole train, but I'm going to say I think Muna is the winner because I think Muna's getting the most winnery edit.
Yeah, definitely to start. I feel like that towards the end of the week, I feel like it was a little quieter for Muna.
Yeah, we haven't heard as much about her thought process in the
Like,
last
who's she
couple
working
of
with? Like,
episodes.
who's doesn't seem like
I mean,
that.
who's
she's-
anybody working with?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
last season, remember how badly it was edited? Like, we didn't know who was working with anybody.
That's
Yeah,
true.
other than Michael and Sean being suspicious of each other, I don't think we have a very clear sense of who's suspicious of who for the most part.
Mhm.
But Jess, I think I agree with you. Rob, you made a very good case for Ryan being the mole. And I think Muna just really has her finger on the pulse of the game, and is really there to she's trying hard to put money in the pot, in a way that Q is too fed up to make it at this point, I think.
Okay. All right. We got from the chat, Kristen says, I get winner, loser, mole energy from Hannah, Michael, Sean in that order.
I love that.
Okay. Winner,
Very
loser, mole.
interesting.
So that's Hannah, winner, Michael, loser, Sean, mole. And then also Sean says, I think Sean's the mole, but bad at it, and Hannah or Muna is winning.
I like mole, but bad at it. I think that keeps it interesting. I that's kind of an outcome I'm hoping for. Like kind of the same way I was hoping Tony was the mole.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been very fun. Maybe people are going to be catching up on the mole over the next couple of days. And so if you are doing that, be sure to join us for our week 2 coverage coming up 1 week from tonight. We've also got Big Brother Family Feud coming up here in just a couple of minutes if you're watching us here live on YouTube. Jess, what's coming up for you?
Well, first of all, happy Canada Day to
Happy
all
Canada
of those
Day.
who celebrate. We are coming up on the premiere of Amazing Race Canada, and Dan Heaton and I will be here to break it all down for you. And I'm very excited to see what that has in store for us. I understand there are some reality alums on it, so I'll be watching that very soon, and we'll be podcasting about it every week until the end.
Who are the alums, Jess?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at it yet. I've been
Okay.
focused on the mole.
From what we hear, right.
Yes.
Could be some alums. Okay. And Brooklyn Zed, what's coming up for you?
Nothing else. It's all Mole Patrol all the time over here for me right now. But you can find me on Twitch playing video games, currently God of War, which I'm having a lot of fun with, at twitch.tv/hardrockhope.
Okay. And Sam Moore tells us it's that Kevin Robert Martin is going to be on The Amazing Race. So check that out with Jess and
that's
Dan.
gonna be awesome.
All right. We've got more mole coverage coming up in 1 week's time. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments here on YouTube and, of course, on social media as well. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.